Arizona State Prison Complex, Amon, would first open its doors in May of 1991 and today houses over 4,500 medium to high security prison inmates. Back on April 15th, 2025, inmate Jesse Alejandro would be found unresponsive within one of the prison's housing units. Responding paramedics in consultation with medical staff would pronounce inmate Alejandro deceased. Inmate Jesse Alejandro was not a normal inmate. He belonged to the Arizona Mexican Mafia, and his death was one of 5 that would occur within a 2-week span in the Arizona Department of Corrections.
Problems inside Arizona prisons. Earlier this month, we told you about the notorious inmate now accused of killing 3 others. Advocates say it's part of a larger trend, a trend highlighted by 2 new deaths inside prisons just this week.
My husband had so much remorse in him, and he turned to God, and he didn't deserve this.
Rachel Brigante couldn't get a hold of her husband, Daniel Montoya, in Lewis Prison over the weekend. Eventually, the Department of Corrections announced his death and called his mother.
And then they explained to her that he was stabbed and succumbed to his injuries.
Wednesday, the Department of Corrections confirming another inmate death in Florence.
He's got this override program where you take an inmate that's top tier, lower the reclassification number, and shove him in a prison where he doesn't belong.
The head of the Arizona Correctional Peace Officers Association says an override inmate stabbed Jesse Alejandro, killing him Tuesday.
These were 5 killings, 5 murders in a total of 2 weeks.
Earlier this month in Tucson, 3 inmates were allegedly murdered by Ricky Wassenauer, the prisoner who took a corrections officer hostage for weeks in 2004.
Wassenauer and Coy boarded up the windows so snipers couldn't see them.
Wassenauer claimed he'd killed a different cellmate in November of 2024, but the Department of Corrections maintains that cellmate died of natural causes. But an autopsy report obtained by ABC 15 shows the medical examiner ruled the cause of death as undetermined.
They didn't have a definitive cause of death. Does it mean that none of those other things happened? Not necessarily. It's just that they didn't see any evidence of it. There's still the possibility this man may have suffocated.
In an email sent to staff Wednesday, obtained by ABC 15, Department of Corrections Director Ryan Thornell called the suspected homicides and inmate violence, quote, unacceptable and deeply concerning.
This will continue because of his policies.
Families of inmates pray it doesn't happen to anyone else.
A lot of them are in there changing for the better so that they can go home to their families. And now my husband, we can't do anything that we planned because someone decided to selfishly take his life. And it's not fair. It's not fair at all.
The controversial and hardline policies that made him a household name for better or worse. But tonight, it's former Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio's own words on immigration that now have him convicted of a federal crime.
In just the past few hours, a judge finding Arpaio guilty of criminal contempt, ruling he willfully violated a federal judge's order. ABC 15's Melissa Blasius kicks off our team coverage. And Melissa, experts you talk to are telling you don't expect Arpaio to serve any time.
That's what they're saying. You know, this crime here, criminal contempt of court, carries a maximum penalty of 6 months behind bars. But when he is sentenced, Arpaio's age will be taken into account here. He is 85 years old. Also, about his public service, that will be taken into account. Also taken into account is the amount of people that he hurt by refusing to stop the racial profiling.
You think I'm going to stop? Never.
That was Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio in 2008 defending his immigration enforcement plans.
They're not going to scare me away, make me stop enforcing all the laws. I took an oath of office to enforce all the laws.
Video of a padlock fight inside an Arizona prison, the same site where several inmates were murdered just last month.
Tonight we get reaction from the Department of Corrections and a prison advocate who says things must change. Nicole Christine joins us in the studio with this exclusive story tonight. Nicole.
Well, Brian and Ashley, advocates for prison reform say this video sounds the alarm on a lack of safety for both inmates and their guards. Now, we do want to warn you that the video of the attack is violent and may be disturbing to some viewers.
The inmates are running the asylum, and that's not what the taxpayers in Arizona are paying for.
A padlock and chain, those the apparent weapons of choice in a recent inmate-on-inmate assault caught on camera inside an Arizona state prison. The video lasts nearly 3 minutes and shows the attack spilling out into the prison yard. Donna Ham, the director of Middle Ground Prison Reform, calls the assault disturbing and a violation of laws in place.
You're really dancing with the case law, which protects an inmate's right to be safe. Inmates are all there because they've committed felonies, but they aren't there with a death sentence.
The Arizona Department of Corrections sending Fox 10 a statement on the incident that says in part, quote, "The incident in this video was isolated and there is no ongoing threat in this housing unit." And despite the brutal nature of the video, a DOC spokesperson says, quote, "No inmates received serious injuries and those involved were moved to higher custody housing." Sources tell Fox 10 this happened inside the Arizona State Prison complex in Tucson. Ham says another concern for her when watching the video was the apparent lack of response by prison staff.
No one came to his aid. No staff member attempted in any way to stop the assault, and that includes when the assault spilled out into the open recreation yard.
And Ham says safety.
Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope y'all are doing well. Okay, so today we're going to be going to the state of Arizona to cover a really interesting case that actually just happened a couple months ago. A guy by the name of Jesse Silk Alejandro. He's an Arizona Mexican Mafia member who was killed. He was actually killed as part of like this. There was 5 people who lost their lives within the Arizona Department of Corrections within a 2-week period. 3 of those actually all died by the same guy. That's pretty interesting. That was mentioned in that news story that I put up there. But our guy, Jesse Silk Alejandro, when I typed his name into just a simple YouTube search, right, trying to find news clips, trying to find information on him, there was a post that was done on IG by a fellow that had done time with him. And honestly, in this post, in this video that he does, he speaks very highly of Jesse Silk Alejandro. Then when I coupled that with comments that I read on that guy's post, on these YouTube news story posts, a lot of RIP Jesse Alejandro, seemed to be someone who was spoken very, very highly of. So I got some information on his death from Arizona's press release a day after his murder. Got some really good background information on a pretty wild case involving Jesse Alejandro's then attorney. So Jesse Alejandro got convicted of murder back in the late 2000s, 2009. As he's fighting his case, his then attorney, a guy by the name of David Paul DaCosta, gets caught up in this drug. Basically, he gets accused of funneling drugs into the prison system for Jesse Alejandro and his fellow Arizona Mexican Mafia members using his then girlfriend, a girl by the name of Emily Keene, who was only 19 at the time. But then it comes out that he might have been falsely accused. And this goes into, and the reason I put that news story up, that Sheriff Joe Arapio, I know I'm saying it wrong. And he's the guy that if any of you, and I'm sure you did, if any of you watched up those lockup extended stays where they would cover county jails in different states, he had that really famous one where he was running like the labor camps in Arizona, saying he's going after illegal immigration and he's doing things differently and he's cracking down on crime. And at first people really liked it. People loved what he was doing. Well, then it came out, he was basically racially profiling. He ended up actually facing a federal charge of this and was convicted. And then President Donald Trump, because a president can only pardon at the federal level. So he can only pardon, and I think people get this confused. If you're convicted at the federal level, a federal crime, the president can pardon you. He cannot pardon you at the state level. So if any of you did not know that, now you do. And then I got some more information on Jesse Alejandro's Arizona Mexican Mafia ties. I found an appeal that was filed in 2012, gave some other good background information on some of the stuff that he was involved in. But first, let's start with the press release on his death. And this is April 16th of this year. Inmate Jesse Alejandro, 40 at the time, died a day earlier, April 15th, 2025, at ASPC Amen. And that's basically Arizona State Prison Facility, or it's just Arizona State Prison, Amen. Prison staff discovered inmate Alejandro unresponsive in this housing unit on April 15th, 2025. Responding paramedics in consultation with medical staff pronounced inmate Alejandro deceased. Inmate Alejandro was most recently admitted to ADCRR custody in 2009 after being sentenced out of Maricopa County for first-degree murder. Now, Maricopa County, it's a very well-known county. That's also that county that Sheriff Joe, that's the one he represented. I'm telling you guys, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just YouTube Arizona lockup extended stay. It's wild. That news story played the little clip of it, but I'm telling you, go watch it out. It's absolutely worth the watch. First degree murder, armed robbery, and promoting prison contraband. his assigned housing unit location, the prison he went to, ASPC Amen. Due to the nature of inmate Alejandro's death, an investigation is currently being conducted by ADCRR's Office of the Inspector General. More information will be shared as soon as it becomes available. And again, I said it was that part of those 5 inmate deaths in 2 weeks. Very violent time. Kind of reminded me a little bit of California and the stuff that was going on within the CDCR. Now, we're going to backtrack a little bit to September of 2009. This is an article that came out and talks about as Alejandro is fighting these murder charges, these robbery, and these contraband charges that end up coming out. His attorney, I put his picture up there, attorney David Paul DaCosta, who was 42 at the time, this is back in 2009, he's out of Graham County in Arizona, and he's of Tempe, was arrested after police say he transferred drugs to a prisoner. And that prisoner, our guy, Jesse Silk Alejandro. DaCosta was accused of giving heroin and crystal methamphetamine to his client during a court hearing back on September 18th. According to Phoenix Police spokesperson Sergeant Trent Crump, DaCosta allegedly admitted to receiving sexual favors for the transfer 2 days before he smuggled the drugs. This is crazy. During a press conference Monday, Crump told reporters police learned about DaCosta's dealings while conducting a separate investigation. Quote, during another investigation that we were conducting, information came across that an individual could get narcotics to a prisoner through the courtroom proceeding, Crump said. According to court documents, DaCosta's inmate client is a member of the Mexican Mafia prison gang. And that's our guy, Jesse Alejandro. The inmate's girlfriend, Emily Keene, 19, allegedly arranged for the drug transfers. Investigators searched Keene's residence and confiscated more drugs and cash, according to Sergeant Crump. DaCosta and Keene were both booked into the Maricopa County Jail on suspicion of transferring and selling drugs, participating in a criminal syndicate, and conspiracy to promote prison contraband in detention facilities. DaCosta's bond was placed at $100K. DaCosta graduated from Arizona State University, summa cum laude. For those of you who don't know what that means he had graduated at the top of his class with a Bachelor of Science in Justice Studies and received his Juris Doctor degree from Arizona State University College of Law. So this guy was no dummy. Even though kind of his picture kind of looks like a simple guy, kind of heavier set white guy. He was a 6-year veteran of the United States Army and saw active duty as an airborne combat engineer squad leader. Oh yeah, man, this guy had a very impressive resume. But he gets caught up in this. While on attorney's probation, an attorney may still practice law, but the state monitors the attorney's activities for a period of time and hopes the attorney does not repeat the behavior. That's insane. Now, this is what's interesting, okay? Fast forward a few months to February of 2010. Some articles were coming out saying that DaCosta was cleared and that charges were dropped. Charges were dropped Monday against a defense attorney accused of trying to smuggle drugs to a jail inmate believed to be affiliated with the Mexican Mafia prison gang. DaCosta, 43 at the time now, was charged with promoting prison contraband, conspiracy to promote prison contraband, 2 drug counts, and assisting a criminal street gang after a Maricopa County Sheriff's deputy claimed he caught him trying to pass drugs stapled to a legal pad to a client he was representing in a court hearing. Remember, the client, okay? That's our guy, Jesse Silk Alejandro. Now, what it was talking about, though, is it says to avoid appearance of conflict of interest, the case was prosecuted by the Pinal County Attorney's Office before Navajo County Superior Court Judge Thomas Wing. According to a spokesman for the Pinal County Attorney's Office, the charges were dropped without prejudice. And what that means is, okay, so right now, yeah, they drop without prejudice, so it means they can be filed again if further evidence were to emerge. And then there's kind of a piece where you can tell the person writing this article kind of gives their opinion. Ignore the end of the last sentence. Reflecting mere poor reporting and a dumb as dirt reporter who doesn't understand that cases dismissed before jeopardy attaches are inherently, quote, without prejudice. Not because there's any expectation that new evidence might emerge. It was a gratuitous and dopey inclusion that marred an otherwise triumphant report. So what this is saying, basically, all right, is that this is what it was talking about. It's basically talking about corruption, okay? Saying that this Maricopa County, the Sheriff Joe, this dragging this otherwise well-respected attorney through the mud for these drug charges and ruining his reputation. And then even after they get dropped, this newspaper still has to mention that, hey, they can be filed again. And this person writing this is basically saying that they're implying that, hey, you know, they think they can still get him. So you can see the other side of this, and then I'm going to keep reading. Lack of evidence means they can't even manufacture a case against DaCosta. No doubt Maricopa County Attorney Andy Thomas would have done everything in his power to make sure that the charges stuck. It may have helped that the case was prosecuted by the Pinal County prosecutor, as the surrounding counties appear to have had enough of the Maricopa County craziness. So again, this is 2010. Okay, what I'm talking about, the lockup extended stay, the Sheriff Joe guy that ended up being federally convicted. all of this is going on around this time. There's a ton of craziness, and eventually comes out there's a ton of corruption. The nightmare is over for David DaCosta, but dismissal isn't enough. The charges smeared him, and it was wrong that his name should ever be associated with the crime for which he was accused. He committed no crime. He did nothing wrong. Now, again, this is their opinion, except maybe his job too well. In Maricopa County, defending those accused of crimes is an offense against Arapio. Of these, DaCosta is guilty. So basically, they're saying that the Sheriff Joe guy, Sheriff Joe Arapio, was convicted of a federal crime, okay? But basically, they're saying that back when he was in charge, back when he was the main guy running things, that if you went against him, so these defense attorneys who are representing these people that Sheriff Joe is locking up and want to throw away the key, they can become then a target of him because, hey, you're making me look bad. I'm locking these people up and you're getting them off. And in this case, he's defending our guy, Jesse Silk Alejandro, an Arizona Mexican Mafia member, very violent, in there for murder. And they basically say, you're defending him too well, and you're defending these other people too well, so now we're going to go after you, and we're going to plant this drug case on you. This is all really interesting. It gives an idea, and the reason I wanted to talk about it, into the corruption. And I just think it's interesting that the guy we're talking about was the actual client that DaCosta was said to be smuggling drugs to. Okay, now, fast forward a few years. An appeal was filed on one of our guy Alejandro's, basically, another Arizona Mexican Mafia member, right? But Alejandro is mentioned in it. And again, this has all been about prison contraband, drug smuggling, all that stuff. And this is just an appeal where he's mentioned in it, though, and I wanted to read it to you guys because, like I said, with this channel, with these cases, I mean, yeah, I could just talk about his death, and yeah, he's an Arizona Mexican Mafia member, kind of make it short and sweet, but I do like to dig deeper. And if I can get more information, I absolutely want to get it. So this is an appeal filed January of 2012. And this is an opinion of the court, okay? We view the facts and all reasonable inferences. Therefore, in the light most favorable to sustaining the convictions, all right? In October of 2008, this guy by the name of Farinas, he's another assumed Arizona Mexican Mafia member, was indicted on one count of assisting a criminal syndicate, a class 4 felony, and one count of conspiracy to promote prison contraband. In February 2010, Farinas was indicted on one count of promoting prison contraband as well. And then an 8-day jury trial would commence in April of 2010, and then he was end up being found guilty of all this stuff. Okay? So this is the facts of the case. Smuggled contraband into a secure facility for the benefit of the Mexican Mafia. The state also alleged that in early August 2008, Farinas knowingly made, obtained, or possessed contraband, a handcuff key, while confined in the Maricopa County Jail. The following evidence was presented at Farinas' trial. From early to mid-2008, Farinas was incarcerated at the 4th Avenue Jail in the Special Management Unit. Each inmate at the SMU was isolated to his own cell, had access to only one day room, and only allowed one person to visit per week. Access to the recreation room, one at a time. Farinas was housed in level 4 at the SMU in cell number 66. Farinas was known as a lieutenant in the Mexican Mafia member and was nicknamed Sinner. A police officer with the city of Phoenix, formerly assigned to a task force to investigate prison gangs by they just named him Detective D. He was specifically signed to the Mexican Mafia, identified Farinas in court and testified that the tattoo on Farinas' chest were of the Mexican Mafia patch and of Carnalismo, which are both known to be associated with membership in the Mexican Mafia. Joseph Garcia, also known as Casper, and Juanillo Montiel were housed in cells 64 and 65, the cells next to Farinas, and had access to the same recreation room. Both were also known members of the Mexican Mafia. Detective D testified that in August of 2008, the cells of Farinas, Garcia, Montiel, and Jesse Silk Alejandro were searched at the jail. He confirmed that letters about Mexican Mafia business items belonging to Farinas and letters to Farinas were found in Garcia's cell. The items found in Garcia's cell confirmed to Detective D that there was a direct connection between Farinas and Garcia in relation to both the Mexican Mafia and in being able to get items from Farinas' cell into Garcia's cell. So all these guys are tied into it. There's more video evidence that ties all these guys into it. I'm not going to just keep rambling about it, but basically, I just want to give as much detail as I can to this guy, Jesse Silk Alejandro. This guy was active. This guy was violent. This guy was tied into so many different things. Seemed like he was really good about getting into prison contraband and getting things in when he needed to, and that's what these guys are all really, really good at. They have all kinds of ties to the streets. Dirty lawyers. I don't really know. You guys give me your opinion down below if you think the attorney, David Paul DaCosta, was guilty or not. It's hard to say, man. It's hard to say, because it's easy to say both ways. It's easy for them to be corrupt and the Maricopa County, the powers that be to say, yep, this defense attorney that we don't like and he's defending these people we're trying to lock up is no good. It's also easy to say, hey, man, these guys are corrupt. I wasn't doing anything. I was just doing my job as an attorney. You know, yeah, you got the charges dropped by this basically third-party county that came in unbiased, but it's just really interesting business. But anyway, and last thing I'll say, Jesse Alejandro's mugshot is no joke, bro. He looks like definitely not someone you'd want to mess with. But really quick, before I go, I made it a point to talk about this more and more. Guys, if you're struggling with any sort of substance abuse, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, get the help. I've made it a point to mention it either in the beginning, middle, or end of every video. As someone who's coming up on 5.5 years of sobriety, this month, September 10th, will be 5.5 years of sobriety by the grace of God. You are absolutely worth it. And whether I cover these stories, whether they're white inmates, Hispanic inmates, black inmates, Native American inmates, I don't care. Drugs always play a part in all of these, just like in this case. Heroin and methamphetamine, doesn't matter. It always plays such a central point in almost all the stories I cover. And it's just not worth it. At the end of the day, it's just not worth it. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, peace.